if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
All right, it's been done.
Great, thanks.
Muted.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is let me just switch over here to...
Unmuted.
Okay. So with the audience poll system, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but essentially what it does is it allows you to text from your cell phone and answer whatever question we have on board. And in real time, you'll actually get a chance to see answers from everybody in the audience. So as I said, I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to add into our event today. And at the same extent, the questions I have lined up are very much fixated on trying to get a little bit of a thumbnail feel in terms of ITS deployments, which is really what we're kind of talking about today. So hopefully all of you can see on your display right now, I've got the question posted there. This is just a tester feeling question. Are you currently registered as a member of ITS Canada? So what you need to do is on your cell phone, just I'm already seeing a response coming in there. On your cell phone, just text to 37607, and then text the word phrase ITS Canada 744. And then once you've done that, you'll have the option of either hitting either A or B. It's not case sensitive, so it doesn't matter how you type it. And you'll start to see the numbers start to increase there. Oh, and as you can see already, we've got 1 yes and 3 no's. There we are. People are slowly but surely trying to figure it out. The key thing here is once you've texted ITS Canada 744, you don't have to text that again. Every question that comes up, basically, it's just a case you just do a straight answer. So the setup is a little bit tricky, but once you go there, then you're pretty much good to go. Should have had some Jeopardy music going in the background here. So we'll keep the polling going for those of you who are seeing that right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to, let me just change my screen display here. So next up on the agenda, we've got Rob Schura. He's our Managing Director for ITS Canada. Basically, he's going to be giving you a few words of update. As I'm looking here at the polls changing back and forth, the majority of you obviously are registered members of ITS Canada. For those of you who are chiming in on the B option of no, shame on you. What are you doing in the line? Just kidding. You're more than welcome to attend this event, obviously, and there are a number of free events held by ITS Canada throughout the year. There's also a number of paid events that are very value-added that take place during the year. So I think in having Rob give a little bit of an update in terms of the things going on within ITS Canada, you can get a feel for some of the things in the year now and I guess coming as well, too. So Rob, on that note, if I could just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Roger. I will, if you give me change presenter and give control to me, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, and hopefully momentarily you'll be able to see my screen.
Yep, actually we can see you now.
All right, so I'll go to a full full screen on my side. Good, everybody can see that okay? Good, so thanks very much, Roger and Bridget Keneal in BC as well for organizing this webinar today. It's a big, big effort to put one of these on. And I know Roger in particular, because of your Pan Am Games preparations, this is a very, very busy time for the City of Toronto. So I just want to say thank you and let you know we very much appreciate your efforts on behalf of the ATMS Technical Committee. I'm going to keep my comments brief, and I'm going to fold in a quick message from Michael DeSantis, who's our chair, and then we'll turn it back over to Roger for the roundtable that you're planning to do. So what's ITS Canada's role? Our role primarily is to facilitate cooperative activities related to ITS among all interested stakeholders in Canada. We provide a high-level forum of exchange of information in the industry, marketing and alliance opportunities for our commercial members, and an ability to contribute to the future of transportation in Canada. The essential building blocks are based on partnerships with academic institutions, with industry as a whole, including our members, but not exclusively our members, with the end users of the transportation system and the regional agencies, and of course with governments. We have solid partnerships with ITS America and many other ITS national organizations around the world, with the Transportation Association of Canada, with CUTA, with AQTR, now a new partnership with APMA. We work very closely with ISO TC204. I'm actually on that committee. And recently, a very strong relationship and some webinars and training courses with IMSA Ontario. We just published our strategy. It will be on our website within the next 4 to 5 days. You'll see the front cover of it there to the right. And its main points are to position Canada to be a leader and an innovator in ITS solutions and policy. And in terms of policy, we've formed a new policy committee. I don't think ITS Canada's had one in the past. And we're actually encouraging members at large to become a part of that policy committee. And our technical committees will each hopefully be nominating one of their members to sit on that policy committee. We're also hoping to grow ITS Canada's reputation as a thought leader in transportation, and that's very much leveraged through our 5 technical committees. Rogers ATMS, we have an ATIS technical committee, we have a public transit technical committee, connected vehicle and autonomous vehicle or automated vehicle technical committee, and a non-transit revenue systems technical committee. So if you're not interested, or sorry, if you're not involved in those technical committees today, certainly go to our website and you can find how to get involved in any or all of those. And as Roger said, membership is free, and we very much encourage members to join. We're planning to develop positions on societal issues, and as Roger mentioned, we're getting ready for a World Congress in Montreal where we expect 7,000 to 10,000 people to converge on Montreal in October of 2017. And to get ready for that, we're planning ACGM's, our annual conference and general meetings in Gatineau in 2015 and Calgary in 2016. Our strategy also is to champion transportation technology in the media, to attend conferences around the world to represent ITS Canada, and you can see a list of some of those there. And we like to take our members along to those conferences, our commercial members. We have a very solid program with GOA, which is a federal government program to assist our commercial members to attend those conferences. So if you've not heard about that, please contact me or contact us through the website. Today's webinar is a good example of the kind of workshops we're doing. And of course, with ITS America as our partner, we're going to be doing the World Congress in Montreal. So the next webinar series that we're doing, we do a quarterly webinar, is on March the 12th. And it's really to give our members an opportunity to understand how they can get involved in the World Congress in Montreal coming up in 2017. And you can see a link at the bottom where you can register for that webinar. And if you wouldn't mind, Roger, just change presenters for a moment and give Michael DeSantis a chance to say hello and maybe talk a little bit about the preparations for Montreal. Michael, are you there? Michael, are you there?
Well, good afternoon or good morning to you, Rob, in BC. Thanks for this.
Michael, I'm not hearing you.
No, it died on me.
I can see your screen, Michael. Roger, are you seeing Michael's screen okay? Well, it looks like we may have lost Michael. Oh, so...
No.
So Roger, can you give me back control and I'll finish this off. All right, it looks like we lost Michael, but I can tell you that Michael's chairing the local organizing committee for Montreal, and things are going along very well. I would encourage all of you to join us for that webinar on March the 12th. It's going to be very informative, and I think a lot of you are showing excitement about how can you get involved in the various committees that are required to put on such a massive undertaking. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Invite you to join us at our annual conference and general meeting in Gatineau, Quebec, which is at the beautiful Hilton Lac Leamy Resort. Bring your spouses, bring your partners. It's going to be a terrific event, and I would encourage you to go on our website very soon to register. And also, if you're thinking about presenting, the cutoff for presenters and papers is the end of this month. So very much would look forward to receiving a whole bunch more abstracts over the next few days. So Roger, I'm done. Thank you very much, and I'll go mute and turn it back over to you as the presenter.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Robert, for that. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to start delving into the presenters. Just make sure you can actually see my screen again. There we are. Okay, so we're going to change up the order a little bit from what you may have seen. The first up will be Greg Lone from City of Toronto. No bias there, being from Toronto. He's actually got another meeting that he's going to be racing off to. So if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to change the order up a little bit. If I could introduce Mr. Greg Lone. He is the manager of ITS Canada for City of Toronto. Thanks, Greg.
ITS Canada?
I mean, ITS Capital, I should say. Slip of the tongue. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name's Greg Lone. I take care of ITS Capital Delivery for the City of Toronto. I'm also the chair for ITS Canada's Advanced Travel Information Systems Technical Committee. I have Roger asked me to give a bit of a background. I have a mixed background in public and private sector experience. I've worked with City of Toronto, regions of York and Durham and Ontario, and have over 12 years of private sector experience with IBI Group, where I was an associate director leading their travel information systems business. So this year, the City of Toronto is really kicking its congestion management plan into very high gear. We are dedicating over $5 million in this year to congestion management funding, most of which is earmarked for ITS work. So just looking at the list on your screen in front of you, we are sort of as the centerpiece, we are replacing our advanced traffic management system software this year. Our original system was deployed in the early 90s and has now been decommissioned, and we are currently evaluating. In fact, that's why I'm going out of this meeting early, because we're going back into the evaluation for this. We plan on actually awarding that one in March. We are also this year going to be deploying over 80 arterial CCTV cameras. That's in concert with our ATMS deployment, because what we were trying to do in the City of Toronto is move beyond traditional freeway traffic management and start looking at our arterials more seriously for actively managing events as they occur on our arterials. So this is going to help us with that reach. The first 40 cameras will be installed before May, or about May, for the Pan Am Games, and the remainder of those cameras will be installed later in the year for hotspots, commuting hotspots mostly. A couple years ago, we got hit hard with an ice storm, Christmas 2013, and so we've been looking at hardening our field infrastructure, and so we're looking at installations of UPS for our freeway units or devices, as well as traffic signals. Another thing that needs some updating is our transit signal priority strategy. We've been working with transit signal priority for many years. We have over 300 sites running transit signal priority, but we've decided we want to do an industry scan for best practices to replace some of those aging methodologies and technologies. So we have an RFP on the street for the planning aspects of that right now, and that'll close in mid-March. We're similarly looking at updating what we do in terms of our adaptive signal control. We've been running Scoot again for about 20 years, but it's really at the end of its serviceable life, both in terms of parts and the way we operate it. So we're looking at what else is out there in industry, but this is going to go beyond that planning phase into a pilot for installation at 20 sites this year. The RFP is out on the street now, and it's about to be released probably in mid-March. We're doing a pilot, again, with arterial VMS. So this is, again, trying to get more management out on our arterials. The first phase of that pilot is going to be providing messaging to commuters for alternate travel times and alternate commute routes. But we also want to use these for sort of broadcasting event information before somebody gets onto a freeway and only to hit a solid wall of traffic. So it'll help them with a route selection as well. Second phase of that is going to be a permanent installation for VMS on arterials later this year. We're doing an advanced traveler information strategic plan. Toronto doesn't actually do that much with traveler information right now. We have a website, it's kind of aging, and what we do with social media is pretty rudimentary. So we're going to be looking at expanding that and asking ourselves, what is our role? That's going to be a planning study that will be concluded this year with an RFP out in April or May. And then lastly, we're looking at, we have a very mature and recently upgraded transportation operations center here in Toronto that is used to manage both our expressway network and our arterial roads, but we've never had a proper business continuity plan for it. We don't have a backup control center. And so that's something that we're going to be going through the exercise of planning this year, probably with an RFP out on the road sometime in May. I think that's all I have, Roger. But I'll invite, if anybody has any questions about our program, about our congestion management program in general, or any of these specific projects, be happy to talk to you about it. I think Roger was going to leave our contact information on the ITS Canada website, and I think I'm probably on there right now anyway as part of the ATIS Technical Committee Chair. So please invite anybody, if they have any questions, to give me a call.
Great. Thank you very much, Greg. I really appreciate that. And as Greg mentioned, if you have any questions, you have a couple options. One, feel free to type them here on the webinar site itself, in which case I'll go back and pull all the questions and sort of put them all together so we can put a consolidated answer back. Or likewise, in this case, Greg's willing to offer his email contact info, that if you want to contact him directly about any of the things that we're working on here at the City of Toronto, by all means, please do. Okay, so our next presenter, again, going to change up the schedule a little bit from what we had. I'm going to switch over now to give access to Winston. Winston, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you. So
Right.
I've got your slide up if you want to go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Roger. And thanks again for the opportunity to speak and just talk about Vancouver's initiatives here in 2015. Again, my name is Winston Chow. I am the manager of the Traffic Management Center here at the City of Vancouver. And we're part of the Traffic and Data Management branch. And so we're responsible for the city's arterial street network, managing all of our traffic signals, traffic control measures. And I've been here at the city as a senior transportation engineer for about 15 years. So looking at 2015 for the City of Vancouver, we just to keep it short, I kind of broke it down to 5 sort of key things that we're doing in Vancouver here. The first one that we've been working on with actually our IT department is the traffic count strategy and a data management application system. So we started in 2012 to develop a strategy, an overall traffic count strategy in the city with all the data that we collect, whether it's for vehicles, bikes, transit, pedestrians. We had various methodologies of how that data is collected. And they all use proprietary ways of collecting the information and storing it. And that made it actually very difficult to analyze the data. So we embarked on a project to basically bring all of this data together, manage it in a holistic and comprehensive way, and to have that data vetted very quickly so that we can have it available to analysis and even for the public to view that data. So the actual software is being developed right now, actually, and when we are in the process of completing the first phase of that within the next couple of months. The second item here is traffic cameras and our traffic camera system. We have a relatively, I would say, small camera system compared to many other cities that you'll probably hear about from today. We have about 60 cameras in the city, and even with the 2010 games, since 2010, we've only maybe added a dozen cameras, but they're installed in fairly strategic locations throughout the city. One thing that I should note that in Vancouver, we don't have a highway system that runs through our city. So most of our traffic control is on arterial streets and, well, traffic cameras anyway, sorry, and intersections of major arterials. And we have a very grid network. If all of those who are familiar with Vancouver, you'll know that it's a fairly square type grid network. And so the other few things I wanted to mention in terms of our camera system is our integration with the regional traffic management center, or transportation management center, and that's the ministry's RTMC. And actually, we just completed that initiative to share our camera feeds with the ministry's RTMC. So there's some video exchange that's happening there. The final thing with our cameras, we have a CCTV policy, so a corporate policy that's being developed right now. And this isn't specifically ITS, but it actually relates to our camera system. And it's actually a very important piece that is going to affect us. The city, corporately, we have many different camera systems, from security systems in our buildings to even the police who have camera systems, and our emergency operations centers who operate cameras. So the city as a whole, we recognize that with the province's legislation on freedom of information and privacy protection, we needed to, as a corporation, develop some policies on how to operate cameras, what we can record, what we can view, what sort of safeguards that we have in place to ensure that we do not invade people's privacy inadvertently, and when we can actually record video and actually capture personal information, and how to do that. So that's a sort of a key piece of policy that's being developed right now, and we expect that to be completed within, actually, I've heard from our legal department that that should be completed this week. The next thing here, our traffic signal system. The city has approximately 900 signalized intersections, and about 90% of our signals are managed with our traffic signal system. And we're in the process right now of updating that software. We're currently utilizing a system that's developed by Parsons, and the update itself is it is again with Parsons, and it's really we call it an update, but it's actually a complete software switchover, and we're in the process of working out some of the bugs and going through the systems acceptance test, and we'll be doing a deployment, I would expect, going live with that with a number of intersections this summer. Oh, I should note that the city's, all of our traffic signal controllers are Novax's 6905s. The last two items here are really in regards to data collection. The video analytics and collision for count and for collision analysis. We've recognized within Vancouver that collecting data volumes on vehicles is important, but what's actually more important for us is capturing the active modes, walking and cyclists. And just looking at the technology that's available currently, there's significant limitations on how we can collect that data in an automated way. So we've been working with a number of technology companies to develop and even explore ways to use video to count and do it in more complex locations. Like, as I mentioned earlier, we've basically Vancouver, it's a grid network, and most of our streets have pedestrians, cyclists, trucks, transit, and general purpose traffic, and we're trying to find the most cost-effective and accurate ways to collect that data in an automated way, 24/7 count. So we're looking at technology to help us do that, and video looks like it's a way that's going to help us to do that, and developing software to do that. So with that, the last part with the automated traffic counters, we recognize that there still is a place for your typical loops, and we have about close to $1 million in our annual budget to install automated traffic counters in the city, and that kind of ties in back with our traffic count strategy of sort of looking at not just how we manage the data, but what type of data we're collecting. And yeah, and so we've got close to $1 million, and that doesn't include other projects, other capital projects that the city is working on that include funding for count systems, for data collection. And I think it's really important to mention that with all of the projects, capital projects that we work on, and I hope that for all of the people here are listening, that you need to think about data collection seriously and allocate specific funds to collect data so that you can do some analysis, get some metrics on the before and after to know whether or not the projects that you're working on, the millions of dollars of public funds that you're spending on, are actually providing the benefits that you expect them to. And so, with all of our projects, we allocate between 10 to 15% at minimum for data collection in all of our capital projects. So that's not included in the 900K. And so that pretty much wraps it up for me. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I guess the format is to just email them or put them in the chat, and we'll get back to you. Or you can contact me directly. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Roger.
Great. Thank you very much, Winston. Really appreciate that summary. Myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well on the line, are writing frantically some of these key points. One thing that really jumped out at me is your comments about the privacy impact assessment you guys are undergoing. Here at the City of Toronto, we're actually going through the same thing. All of our cameras to date have all been on expressways. And as Greg Loan mentioned earlier in the previous presentation, now that we're moving into putting a significant number of cameras in the downtown space, in Central Business District, we felt sort of, as a due diligence out of prudence, to basically undertake a privacy impact assessment as well.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
It's great, and that's how it starts. But we felt that we needed, like, within the city anyways, to develop some guidelines, just so that as we have new people that come in to operate systems, that they understand that there is an overarching policy and procedures on how to operate CCTV systems. And actually, I should mention that this goes beyond just CCTV. This is going to cover like any use of cameras that staff use, whether it's an iPhone or a GoPro, those kinds of things. So it's going to cover those applications as well.
That's excellent. And likewise, even for us, same thing. I mean, we want to start with the cameras, but we do have kind of longer range plans to get into even things like just data collection, like the Bluetooth readers and things like that too. Sort of a dangerous territory to some extent, but the reality is if you have these privacy impact assessments in place, it basically just serves to protect you in case there's any sort of concerns coming from the public. So thanks again, Winston. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Now, just going to take a really quick break from the presenters for a second here. Go back over to our audience poll questions. So the question I have on the screen here right now is, how many years have you been in the ITS or transportation engineering field? I know there's a lot of folks. Oh, someone just chimed in there, 10 to 20 years. We've got a number of people on the line right now. I'm just really kind of curious to get a feel for the range of the folks on the line here. You can see the numbers growing there. So anyway, we should have had the Jeopardy music here. But it's quite interesting to see the sort of breakup and sort of demographics in the audience there. Quite a few people, actually there's two groups that are kind of surging ahead there. Number of junior folks in the audience and a number of people who are in the sort of 10 to 20 range there. Only 3 people 20 years and beyond? Just curious, am I the only one in the room? Mind you, I haven't texted myself yet. Anyways, what we're going to do right now, let's move on to the next presenter. Amr, if you're there.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, let me just switch back over to the main screen. There, you're seeing your screen right now. So Amr is the team lead for traffic signals with the City of Surrey. Amr, if you want to give a couple of words of introduction of yourself and then take it from there. Thank you.
Sure, will do. Thanks, Roger. My name is Amir Afridi. I am with the city for over 8 years now, and previously I worked for the MTO in Ontario. Been in ITS for working on these projects for almost less than 10 years, I would say over 8 years. Also been member for the advisory board here, ITS advisory board in BC. That will be, and plus I look after traffic signals and traffic management center at the City of Surrey. So that's a little bit of my introduction. Today, as we'll be talking about our ITS rollout plans for 2015, I'll start with our traffic management center. We are in the final stages of the newly constructed traffic management center at the City of Surrey. The final testing will be happening in April. However, we have installed 250 cameras as we speak, and we'll be adding 75 PTZ cameras this year on 2015. So that will bring us to the total of 325 PTZ cameras around the city. Also, we were talking about the privacy impact assessment. We were getting a lot of pressure from the legal department, so I guess we have completed that, the privacy impact assessment for our cameras. And with that, what we are doing is that we are providing any video clips that are related to the crashes to our CMP in case of accidents if we capture it. And sometimes, as I don't know if you folks know about it or not, but we have ICBC, Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, and we provide them video clips for the crashes as well if it is available, because it's covered under our PIA, Privacy Impact Assessment, that we can do so if the license plate or the faces are not recognized. Going further, we have been installing the UPS in the city for the past 5 years. Currently, we have 80 UPS installed around, and we'll be installing 25 more locations this year. Typically, we install them on our major arterials. We have prioritized the locations which are in the close vicinity of the railway crossings. Those are already installed, which are almost 30 in number. And also, we are working right now to implement and install the UPS monitoring system into our TMC to see how we can monitor the battery or how can we schedule the maintenance on the battery for these UPS systems around the city. With our new TMC, we are running from 12.
Actually, sorry, Amber, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, have you got like 2 phones maybe, or we're starting to hear a lot of echoes on the line there?
No, I'm using my laptop.
Oh, okay, all right. Actually, this sounded a lot better there. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Is it better now, or is the same?
Yeah, much better, much better. Yeah.
Okay.
We're starting to get a little bit of echo there.
Yeah. I didn't dial in, but I thought maybe I'll use my laptop, so maybe that's the. Another thing that we are proactively doing is the remote signal timing changes for incidents and construction. At the City of Surrey, we have over 325 signalized intersections around the city. Out of 300, we have almost 150 signalized intersections currently that we have communication with from our traffic management center. And as we are monitoring the traffic events and incidents during the 12 hours from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., if we see any issues related to congestion, or if it's a traffic accident that happened, or what we do is we remotely change signal time to favor the movement. Now I hear my echo too over here actually. To remotely change the signal timings during incidents and construction, and we do that quite frequently around the city. Also, we will be improving our communication. Our goal for this year is to bring the remote communication to all the signalized intersections by the end of this year. It's a huge undertaking, and we would like to complete that by the end of this year, because what happened is that sometimes when we have crashes and we don't have remote communication to those signals, we are unable to change the signal timings, and that's our goal for this year as well. Currently we have adaptive traffic signal control. It's a pilot project which is in the final stages. We had it installed last year, but still we are doing some upgrade on it, which will be completed by end of this month. And we will be evaluating it to see how it operates. We have been closely monitoring this, and we'll have some updates available by end of this year for the adaptive traffic signal control in the City of Surrey. The most important thing, the last one, is that we do a travel time. We do travel time surveys around the city for our major corridors. That includes arterials and as well collectors. We have developed a travel time map which we update every year, and these runs are done especially when we have coordination in place for over 25 corridors around the City of Surrey. What we do is, once we do an upgrade to a signal coordination, we do before and after studies to do the evaluation of our project, and that's how we prioritize our time-based coordination for the corridors around the city. That's a travel time map. We prepare that for the city, and this year we will be doing that again. This mining, that will be most of the project, but on the side note, we are also doing a project with the University of British Columbia on conflict, to do conflict analysis using videos at intersections. That is the conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. It's being finalized, and it's kind of in the draft, but will be finalized soon. That is some of the things that's very innovative, and we are pursuing that with the ICBC and UBC at the university. The results will be available, and I'll be able to share them soon if anyone is interested about it. With that, Roger, I'll hand it over to you, and if there's any questions, yeah, feel free. I can get it directly or through Roger. I am open for that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Amir. I really appreciate that summary. And likewise, I'm sure everyone on the line is starting to see, even just with a few presentations we've already given, similarities. It seems like everyone's heavily involved in terms of doing privacy impact assessments as we expand our camera footprint. The other similarity, Amer, I saw is you mentioned about your UPS monitoring for 100 locations, 105 locations. So are you actually rolling out 105 UPS this year, or?
We started the UPS program, it's now the 3rd or 4th year, but this year we have installed, currently we have 80 locations installed, and 25 we'll be installing this year, so that will bring us to the total of 105 locations.
I guess my thing is, it strikes me as quite the investment. Is there a lot of concern in terms of power outages or things along those lines that sort of warrant that sort of deployment?
So what's happening is that actually we had only 2 incidents. In BC, I'm not sure about the rest of the Canada, but we have a lot of issues with the wire theft because of the copper. And what happened is that the power supply to the signal or to the street lights will be, I mean, you have a wire theft issue, and we almost pay over $1.5 million a year in wire theft around the city for the street lights. And sometimes the signal get impacted, the traffic signal. So that's one of the reasons that we would like to increase the UPS locations around the city. And secondly, ICBC, Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, they are fully supporting the UPS installation in BC. And we get almost 40 to 50% funding from ICBC for installing. That's how we roll out. Our cost is quite, I would say 50% of the total cost, and that's how we would like to increase the UPS locations around the city.
Okay. Actually, I see a question here. Just having a bit of an issue trying to pull it to grab the question down here. Talking about the real-time data that you have, whether it's, or the data I should say that you've got on the travel time maps, that the intent was for it to be real-time or static.
So it's a real-time data. How we do it that we have a computer, like we have a laptop, and that has a GPS. And we use a software that captures our average speed, total stop delays, average stop delays, average speed around the corridor, and all the detailed information about what's happening. And we use floating car technique. So what happened is that we have a student that goes around, I would say really most of the corridors, which are critical, and that's how we collect the data for the travel time around the city. Okay,
great, great. All right, Amer, thank you very much again. And as you mentioned, I'll try and field the oddball question here and there, but for the most part, if I miss your question, we'll compile all the questions and provide answers afterwards. Other little side comment, definitely someone was asking whether or not the presentation slides would be available for downloading. Yes, we will make them available on the ITS Canada website in the coming days or weeks, I should say, following this event, along with answers to all the questions that everyone's answered. So, Amer, thank you very much again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, just a quick break and just jump over again to our audience poll. Especially now you're starting to see sort of similarities in terms of different things people are doing. The question I throw out to everybody on the line is just this. My local jurisdiction has best implemented ITS with respect to, and you have a couple of options there. There's option A, smarter connected traffic signals, and I see someone's kind of jumped in on that one. And when I say connected, I mean connected in terms of centralized traffic control for signal coordination, that kind of thing. Option B, if you think the jurisdiction you live in is very, very good in terms of either sign deployment or the usage of signs in terms of how the signs are used, by all means chime in on that one. Option C, traveler information. I see no one's voting for that just yet, although I do know a number of jurisdictions that are extremely good at it. You know, York Region, Ottawa is very, very advanced with respect to that. I know you got some of the Ottawa folks on the line as well too. And next down from there, advanced public transit as an option. I know a lot of jurisdictions across Canada have got really, really proud in terms of the deployments they have in that regard. Right now I see a lot of people thinking that we're doing a good job with respect to smarter traffic, smarter connected traffic signals, I should say. I noticed that the last category there, big data or the whole idea of harvesting data or taking data from a number of different sources or whatnot. No one seems to be voting for that right now. Not sure if it's a case of it's an area that you think we're falling short in, but certainly kind of interesting. And as I mentioned before, in terms of slides we would make available, we'd make available both the slides of the presenters as well as these surveys as well, because you might find the numbers that we've sort of pulled kind of interesting from that regard as well too. So on that note, if I could switch back over to my main display here. And Samir, if you're available on the line, hang on a second, let me just get your microphone turned back on again. Hi Samir, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and you can see your display. Yeah, if you
Yep.
could start with just a little bit of introduction and background, and then you could roll ahead into your plans for this year. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. This is Samir Patel with City of Calgary. Talking about background, I have like 14 years experience in traffic engineering. Focus is mostly on traffic signal coordination, ITS, incident management, emergency management. I have some private industry experience also. So here's our plan for this year. I mean, not necessarily all the things are there, but this is the majority of the ITS part we're going to work or initiatives. The first one is the downtown parking guidance system, which is very interesting, exciting project we're going to work this year. The idea here is, most of you guys know, a lot of studies have done that show that most of the congestion around downtown is people looking for parking spaces. Some studies have shown like 33% congestion is towards actually people actually looking for parking space. So what we want to do here, not slightly different approach than other cities are doing, not just displaying the parking spaces available in a particular lot, but we'd like to give them guidance in the sense, if you take a left turn or to go through or take a right, how many spaces are available in that particular area actually we're talking. Not necessarily there are multiple parkades actually owned by private or city owned. So we'd like to more like a comprehensive approach and guide people into the right direction so we can minimize overall congestion. So that's the first project. The second one, it's text your ride. It's a customized SMS event notification system. So basically, it's not a new concept. A lot of people know. People can go to a website. You can select a route which to a particular time you can select, and you can get a notification, major incident happening on that particular route through your email or phone. So we would like to try and see how we can make it more sustainable, in the sense like we would like to work with telecom service provider and see if they would like to include as a package. So will not charge in front to the customers or citizens, but they can talk to their provider and get the package and in that sort. So it can be more sustainable in that point, and city doesn't have to bear a lot of cost, ongoing cost. So we'll see how that goes. The next one is the traffic control replacement program. So just to give background, like City of Calgary has 1,000 traffic signals, and 60% of them have communication. Out of that, you can say around 60% of that is on copper network, which is really a challenge for us right now to keep uptime in 90% above and those things. So the idea is, as a part of our regular replacement program, we are looking in around downtown area if we can replace with those copper network with a fiber network or adding new communication. So this year's more focus is, as a ITS, we would say adding a lot of communication, because that's a king these days. Everybody wants to get connected, and it has a lot of benefits and those things. The next one is Twitter feed, or 24/7 Twitter feed through TMC. In the past, our communication group was handling a lot of basically Twitter account. But having gone last year 24/7 TMC, would like to incorporate that function within TMC. So that's one of the things we already going to start, or I would say we're going to rolling out fairly shortly. The next thing is the partnership with AT Alberta Transportation. So just to give background, last 6-7 years we've been partnering with Alberta Transportation to do incident management and emergency management around Calgary area. The highway which is owned by Alberta Transportation through City of Calgary TMC. This partnership is going great. So this is another few things we're going to roll out this year is the queue clearance project. This is basically a traffic responsive system we would like to install at a exit ramp so it can control a downstream traffic signal based on a traffic volume on that ramp. The another thing we'll be working on this year is the DMS messaging, and that's we're going to roll out a RFP this year for overhead DMS sign to replace a few of the existing DMS signs, and a few PTZ cameras along our ring road. The another thing I saw Greg's presentation, which we're really actually working, is having a TMC backup center. Our TMC is almost 10 years old, and we didn't have really a proper backup center where we can say more like a resiliency point of view. We can have that added this year. And the last, which I've not included here, but one thing we are looking at it is our current travel time system along some freeway and arterial, which is run by Bluetooth data, and we want to see if we can complement that with a probe data like Andrix, and see how we can give more accurate travel time along those routes. I think that's more of it for this year.
Okay, that's great, Samir. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the comments that I just picked up on as I'm frantically writing notes myself is you mentioned the backup traffic operations center. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, and as I say, it's likewise as a project that we're working on here at the City of Toronto. I think the key interesting thing there may be just how you go about taking all your video. I'm assuming, is it all IP video or is it analog video?
It's analog at the monitor level here, but that's something what really we're doing is it's a IP. Most of them is IP now, but we have to, at a monitor level, we have to make it analog because the monitor wall is analog. So that's something there are two systems we really need a backup. Is our traffic control system, which is a MIST, and for that we would like to just do more like a database backup, and then what for the video we'd like to real-time or active backup, center. Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the challenges we're finding right now is the whole thing of how you take all the IP video from one and basically duplicate it to the other to have it mirror imaged and software licensing and approaches and all that type of stuff as well too, right?
Yeah, because our network recently, City IT network, has done multicasting and adding rings actually.
Right.
So they can have 3 backup centers within network itself. So what we are trying to do is we're going to have a few servers. We're going to mirror servers actually at a remote location, and just in case this network failed, they can have of course the another redundancy network which we can go back on and actually work from there. So again, there are a lot of challenges we have to go through, as I said, But yeah, this year's main focus is connectivity and getting a backup center. But just overall talking about, I guess I saw a few people have mentioned about what is the main thing they want to look. I would say is looking at the maintenance and operating cost, I guess I would say, because some of the connectivity issues we have these days is because we get a lot of capital budget, but then ongoing operating budget, it's hard to add every year, so we can look after that asset actually. So I think just we have to see what is that best combination, I guess, you know.
Right. And one more question I couldn't help but catch as well too. You mentioned about the whole effort, which is also, I guess, a pretty significant one. You have a whole bunch of legacy copper networks that you're planning on switching over to fiber. And I know there's probably a number of vendors out there on the line who probably sell fiber, who probably glad to hear that on one hand. On the other hand, I have to ask the question, have you given any consideration to the possibility of using media converters? Because I'm assuming the switch from copper to fiber, is it really?
Yeah, see, the challenge for City of Calgary is it was maintained by within City of Calgary, and then they made an NMAX, which is a private entity now, which look after all the copper network really. And being a private, they are not really actively providing that much support actually. So so there is some challenge of you know, in that point actually. And going forward, yeah, I mean, would like again, we're adding all these devices, but if we don't have great connectivity, again, we go back to, you know. So yeah, it will be a few years. It's not going to be like, of course, we're going to start this year. It will be a few years, I would say 5 to 6 years program to get it converted. There will be a lot of wireless network. We also is point to fixed wireless network we are looking to add just to make sure, because the cost of fiber and those things, yeah, will be reduced. Yeah.
Right. Great. Well, Samir, thank you very much again. Really appreciate that. So as I mentioned to you guys, everyone on the line again beforehand, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the questions poll. If we get to them, great. If not, as I say, we're going to compile all the questions and post them, as well as both the presentations and the audience poll as well on the ITS Canada website. From here, we're going to switch over to our next speaker, Janice Chow from City of Edmonton. Janice, I'm just going to turn your microphone on. You there?
Hi.
Hi
I'm
there.
here.
Okay, great, Jen. If you want to give everyone a little bit of introduction about yourself, and then you can take it away and talk about plans within the City of Edmonton. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Roger. Hi, everybody. I've been with the City of Edmonton for a number of years. I started off in the TMC years ago doing traffic signal design, and over the years I've moved around through our different departments, including our roadways construction group, our planning and development transportation engineering group, and eventually I made my way back to the traffic management center, so I'm currently overseeing the group here. One of the plans that we have for this year is our traffic signal central system conversion. So similar to the City of Calgary, we have approximately 1,000 traffic signals in the city. About 60% of those are on our legacy central system, which is about 25 years old, and we have about 300 standalone signals. While our legacy central system is working pretty well, there are times when we have some equipment and part failures, and we scramble to find some of that old equipment. For any of you who have had the opportunity to stop by our TMC here, you'll find our environment is very loud, as we've purchased some brand new dot matrix printers to run our system. About 2 years ago we introduced a new Ethernet-based central system, and we've been able to move about 35 signals a year over to the new system. But this year we actually received funding for a fairly aggressive 4-year system conversion program, so that will allow us to upgrade some of our old equipment and controllers and cabinets in the field. So right now we're in the process of evaluating a lot of the equipment and developing a strategy to implement this conversion. So this will also include determining our best method of communication, so whether that's wireless or cellular. Just moving on to our next project here, our traffic cameras. So currently the City of Edmonton has 56 CCTV cameras, and we live stream them to the City of Edmonton website. I think we're one of the few municipalities in Canada who does live streaming video. The software system that we chose has made it very challenging to stream these images. So due to a requirement from our IT group to upgrade our existing server hardware, we've discovered a new option to build a new back end to our system. So with that new architecture, we're hoping that we will be able to share these streaming images to multiple external users, and part of that will also include live streaming video to mobile devices. With that, we've also been meeting with Alberta Transportation, so the province, to discuss the potential of installing 6 CCTV cameras on the Anthony Henday Ring Road around Edmonton and bringing those feeds back to the traffic management center here with the city. The province does have a number of CCTV cameras currently, but we do not collectively share that information, so we're starting our discussions. We have plans for about 6 installations. I think there's benefits to having the city manage some of the incidents on their outer ring road, as there's a lot of cross streets from the city that tie into their road. The idea of this partnership is potentially to lead to the concept of a future regional TMC. We've also partnered with our emergency services group. Last year we installed a GPS-based emergency vehicle preemption at 37 intersections along 2 corridors in Edmonton, and these intersections are tied into our central signal system. This year we're anticipating upwards of 50 more locations, and again working closely with our emergency services group to identify the strategy. We are trying out a brand new overheight vehicle detection and warning system here in Edmonton at 2 locations this year. So we have our high-level bridge, which is about a 100-year-old structure. It carries vehicles, pedestrians, and a trolley streetcar in the summertime. And not only does the bridge often get hit, but our existing overheight vehicle detection system and cabinet also gets hit due to the location. So because there's a lot of geometric and right-of-way constraints in that area, this new system will allow us to place the sensors in a more desirable location further upstream using wireless transmitter and receiver equipment, and also providing directional detection. So at the other location, it's our Fort Road train bridge, and so we also have a lot of incidents at that location. In fact, one just a few days ago, and this often ties up the traffic in the area. And so at both locations, we were able to tie our detection system into our dynamic message signs. So we'll have a multiple use out of our DMS, and we also have the potential to tie the warning system back to our TMC, so our operators here are able to get an alarm and to view the CCTV cameras to manage the incident. Finally, we are looking at a partnership with the U of A for a connected vehicle pilot. So the project will be led by the U of A, and for this year the target is to plan and design a test bed. So the City of Edmonton is a support role and will be contributing in identifying a corridor, which will include the installation of roadside equipment to collect data from vehicles with onboard equipment. So our goal is to have 3 on-road test bed installations and a field operation test by early of next year. Some of the key application areas for this research will be incident detection and traveler information and arterial management. So we're hoping to leverage some of this connected vehicle data to support our traffic signals operations, including adaptive traffic signal systems. So those are highlights for our projects this year. We are in the preliminary stages of researching some other areas, including the adaptive signal control and replacement of our ATMS. So moving forward, we hope to bring some more information for next year's.
Great, Janice, that was fantastic. Actually, I'm sorry, got a couple of questions for you. The first point there, traffic signal central system conversion. As I was hearing you describe that, I'm thinking that is a massive undertaking. Sorry, feel free to, I mean, if you how much money have you guys actually allocated for that initiative? Because it sounds like you're talking about, number one, doing a bit of an audit in terms of what's the best communication, and then a complete overhaul of even the controller cabinets and everything out in the field.
It is a major undertaking. We've set aside approximately $14 million for this.
Wow.
So it will be aggressive, and yeah, we are certainly working on the best strategy. So, you know, a lot of our new signals out there have gone out with newer equipment. So we're sort of targeting everything older than the 15-year equipment mark. So not everything will be replaced, but only assessing the oldest cabinets and the different types of communication that we have.
So the $14 million, would that be divided out over the coming years type thing, or is that specifically for this year to try and tackle?
No,
like
for over, oh, sorry.
Over the yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it will be distributed over 4 years.
Right. Gotcha. The other one that really jumped out at me is actually your last point. Your partnership with U of A in terms of setting up a connected vehicle pilot and test bed. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about that. What exactly are you looking to sort of achieve out of that test bed? Is it sort of getting the data and feeding it into your traffic signal operations, or just getting sort of congestion maps out of it? What are you looking to achieve in terms of getting data from connected vehicles?
Yeah, I think everything that you mentioned. So the U of A really is leading this project. So we and a number of other stakeholders are partnering and providing a support role. But some of the key areas, as I mentioned earlier, do include incident detection. So with the vehicles talking to the roadside equipment, we can collect some travel information, determine congestion. Hopefully some of those things will lead to providing travel information out to the public. So right now we only have our traffic cameras streaming to our website, but if we can develop some congestion mapping or travel time information, potentially in the future we did look at tying it into our traffic signal operations.
Okay, that's great. Fantastic. All right, thanks again. Any questions you guys have for Janice, as I mentioned beforehand, feel free to post them in the questions section, and likewise, again, we can always circle back and post any answers you have, or any answers that we have, I should say, to the ITS Canada website. Just going to take a quick break again and switch over to our audience poll system. So the previous question I asked you guys was talking about what we're doing really well in terms of what you think your local road authority is doing really well in terms of ITS deployments. This one here is kind of the flip side. Let's say that your local road authority is suddenly given another $5 million to spend on their ITS this year in particular. Where do you recommend it be spent? So should they be spending more money in terms of smart or connected traffic signals? Should the emphasis be in terms of better use of variable message signs? Should they improve the traveler information apps or systems that are available to commuters? More advanced public transit deployments, or should the $5 million be spent on harvesting big data? Actually, in this particular one, I have given you guys the opportunity to bid more than once. So, for example, if you think that the $5 million should be spent on a couple of areas, by all means, feel free to sort of chime in on that. Actually, I can see the poll just closed, and interestingly enough, big data seems to be the area that a lot of folks, at least on the phone right now, think is where, if any local road authority was given $5 million, this is where it ought to go. So very interesting sort of thought with respect to that. Actually, if I can just get to the next question in the audience poll as well, too, give a little bit of a break in between presentations. What do you think is the biggest deterrent towards, and I guess the key thing here is rapid deployment of ITS locally? A lot of jurisdictions, you know, the ones you can hear on the phone and the ones who are listening in, obviously have got pretty aggressive plans in terms of deploying ITS. That being said, I guess the question here is really, what's stopping us from doing it quickly? What's slowing us down? What takes us a long time to get things out, despite the will to actually do things? I see a number of people chiming in on the first option there already in terms of funding. The second point there that seems to be coming in second place right now is lack of a clear plan or vision for ITS. So a lot of people feeling that maybe their local jurisdiction doesn't have that much by way of strategic plans for ITS. Internal or external resources, whether within the government agency itself or consulting or contractor resources locally available. No one seems to think we have any kind of technical limitations. The technology seems to be there. So I guess the impression we're getting is the technology is there, it's available, no sort of issues there. And then, of course, the last option in terms of purchasing and sole sourcing, a few folks, and I'm assuming these are all Ontario folks. But the interesting thing is I know there was that event that took place just a couple weeks ago in Markham, Ontario, where a lot of ITS professionals got together, the ITS Canada event actually, and talking about technologies at the municipal level. And a lot of folks in Ontario were basically saying, or harping on the idea that purchasing and sole sourcing is a big issue. So yeah, very interesting results with respect to that. Right now, in terms of the presentation slide deck, I'm going to jump over to City of Ottawa. And Chris, I'll put your microphone on. Chris, can you hear me? Or rather, can we hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. If you just make sure you speak up a little bit there. And so again, just as everyone knows, if you want to give a few words of introduction on yourself and what you do there at the City of Ottawa, and then feel free to roll ahead in terms of your plans with ITS. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, my name is Chris Brinkman. I'm the Manager of Traffic Operations here with the City of Ottawa. One of those initial pollings that you did regarding years of experience, I probably wind up in the bottom part of that category. So I'm I guess for better or for worse, have a few years under my belt. But all that to say, I'm responsible for our traffic management center here, as well as so we do all the traffic signal installation, maintenance, any reparations, as well as we do all the traffic signing, as well as the pavement marking. So it's a fairly big operation. So just quickly in terms of numbers, we have about 1,140 signalized intersections. Proud to say that we have them all online as of this last year. We have about 228 fixed traffic camera locations out there. That's grown exponentially over the last few years. Have a number of, as well as mobile units that we can deploy and feed back to our central system here. So that's sort of a little brief overview. Some of the projects that we'll be focusing on this year in 2015 is a rollout of an adaptive signal system. It's going to be a web-based and communicates via several open process data interfaces with our traffic control center and controllers. Objective, of course, is to achieve good flow of traffic through all sections of the network. We're going to be piloting that over 16 intersections. It's going to be in the east end of the city, actually, on a major arterial road. There'll be about 75 inductive loops that we're installing, as well as some additional fiber cable where required. Another project that's been active for a couple years now is the upgrading of the ITS infrastructure along Highway 174 here in Ottawa. This was a former MTO 4-lane divided highway that was transferred over to us a number of years ago. Not much there in the way of any type of ducting or the traditional power sources that you'd need to make ITS work. So we've, in the meantime, we've installed 4 of the self-lowering traffic cameras, along with a couple solar applications with some wireless feeds for our traffic cameras. We installed 4 of the permanent VMS signs along that roadway as well. And we're in the process of trying out some wireless detection out there to capture speeds and volumes. Just trying to get that information back to our central system here. Thirdly, another big initiative will be the Champlain Bridge reversible lane system. that's essentially an interprovincial bridge connecting Ottawa and Gatineau that's owned by the National Capital Commission. That's a federal jurisdiction unique to Ottawa. It's a three-lane bridge with existing reversible center lane, HOV center lane down the middle. And it's been operating in that configuration for about 20 years. However, in the meantime, the NCC is asking the city to assume control of that operation. So we've agreed to do so, and we've been negotiating with them for the last couple, well, probably close to a year now. So it's a couple kilometers of bridge there. There's 9 overhead gantries that support the LED lane indicators, the green arrow or the X, or in the center lane case, the HOV symbol. So the city, in agreeing to do this, we're going to install our own hardware and software so that we can communicate with the reversible lane system and bring the information back here to our centralized control center. So as well, we'll be installing a couple of traffic cameras on the bridge as well. So it's an interesting project. It, of course, requires coordination with interprovincial bridge, so we're dealing with Quebec on this as well, and the NCC. So interesting project, a lot of in-house development on our side here. Fourthly, I have the fire truck GPS preemption expansion. Maybe some people have heard in the last few years we've deployed our own in-house designed fire truck preemption system so that the vehicles themselves are equipped with a CPU and GPS units, GPRS hardware, instead of putting the hardware at the intersection, so you mount it on the vehicle itself. Takes advantage of existing traffic control system, communications infrastructure, and it's always scanning and ensuring that approaching vehicles have a green light ahead of a vehicle arrival. Essentially, it's at the station when the firefighter jumps into the truck and turns the key on, it becomes live and starts the process of determining which direction the truck is going to go, and then provides signal preemption as the vehicle moves through that route. Much more cost effective to implement and maintain, because you don't have to provide specialized equipment at the intersection or change the controller. And of course, it also returns very quickly to the active coordinated phase after the vehicle has gone through the intersection. And lastly, something that we're working with along with the province of Ontario, and it's called the Eco Drives Proof of Concept. MTO has approached the city last year about partnering on a proof of concept project related to connected vehicles, and EcoDrive is a proof of concept project that will use existing connected vehicle solutions to support commercial vehicle eco-driving in urban freight corridors. Essentially, we'll be equipping, putting out some cellular communication technology out there, as well as equipping some commercial vehicles so that they're able to capture some real-time traffic signal operations. And the desire here is to inform drivers of heavy vehicles of upcoming delays, congestion, hopefully to allow them to adjust their travel speed, and in the end, hopefully leading to a little more fuel efficiency, less aggressive driving, fewer harder braking. We're deploying it on a particularly busy, high volume of heavy truck traffic through the downtown core here in Ottawa. It's kind of an ugly stretch of road where we run a lot of heavy trucks, semis, B-trains that go from Quebec through our downtown core essentially, and end up on Highway 417, usually on their way to maybe Montreal. So it's like I say, it's a proof of concept, and we're working with the MTO on this one. It's funded by Transport Canada and the Ministry. So those are kind of some of the out of the box things that we're working on for 2015. Maybe if I could just add with regards to traffic cameras, there was some discussion about increasing the number of traffic cameras, and just to put my 2 cents in there, we've seen we went from, I think we might have had 10 cameras 10 years ago, so now we have over 220. One thing that you have to appreciate, the number of requests that we've received from the police, for example, for the we don't give away the camera feed per se, but we do log the data for 30 days. So in case of accidents or what have you, they'll make a request to view the information. So we started with about 10 requests, and now we're up to over 300 a year for camera information. So anyways, that sort of sums it up for Ottawa.
Hey, Chris, that was fantastic. Thank you very much for that summary. Actually, just on that last note there, so do you guys actually record your video?
We do.
Because that's one key thing is, likewise here at the City of Toronto, and I know I could speak on behalf of my friends over at the Ministry of Transportation Ontario as well too, that really, as far as recording video goes, well, you've known from our previous discussions, we've always been in this situation where we only, if there's an incident, after the incident has happened, we might actually record the video to sort of see how well it was managed in terms of how we cleared the vehicles and everything, but they don't proactively constantly record all the video. And likewise, we get a lot of requests for video feeds, not just from the police, but also from even just regular public who they got into a collision somewhere and they happen to see a traffic camera, and so the first thing they do is they chime in at the local road authority and say, hey, were you recording what happened there? That kind of thing. So we've kind of managed to stave off a lot of that just by saying we don't record the video. But
yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? And you're kind of a victim of your success as you put more of them out. I think they benefit us in terms of for traffic, and they're only used for traffic purposes. But you know, the police will make those requests, and we're literally getting inundated by those requests. And I know at the end they're used for accident investigation. However, they've put a huge strain on our in-house folks here in terms of retrieving that data. You have to literally pull it out and, you know, review that, I don't know, half an hour. First of all, the camera has to be pointing in the right direction, and if you do find out it was pointed in the right direction, then you have to scan through the video and then eventually provide it to the police. So the time involved for staff to review all those images is huge, actually, and has gone up exponentially. So anyways.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I guess the other point, too, that I wanted to just well, sorry, one quick question. So you mentioned about giving the video to the police. Do you also make it accessible to the general public through, like, Freedom of Information Act type requests?
Yeah, everybody has to sign a waiver, including the police. So we have made some requests available through different different forms, but typically through the police is where it's coming from.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Hang on a second. Sorry, one other quick question as well, too. Is the Intelligent Transportation Corridor project, is it similar to like an integrated corridor management type approach? Is that what you're looking at doing there?
Yes.
So it would be like a tie-in between transit and freeway and arterial and all modes of transportation sort of approach?
Well, I mean, it's yeah, it's kind of a sort of a work in progress. It's I mean, it does have a transit component to it. In fact, we run part of it runs our we have our BRT on there right now,
Right, right.
Some shoulder lanes, and then there's the exclusive BRT for a section of it. And that in turn will be converted to light rail, so the buses will actually be diverted onto the highway on the shoulder lanes for a period. So that was also part of the impetus of the incentive of trying to get the ITS software and components out there as well ahead of time. So we would have a little more. We had no eyes out on this stretch of road for years. So and now that at least we have the cameras up there and some VMS signing, we can hopefully deal with issues as they come up. Once the buses move on to here, there'll be, you know, a couple hundred buses an hour moving on to here.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I guess your last comment there about the EcoDrive's proof of concept is really interesting to hear. A couple of jurisdictions making reference to connected vehicle, in this case, connecting up to commercial vehicles with respect to that, which is kind of a good segue into, I guess, my next poll question here, which some of you have already started to sort of jump in on. But the question I had for everybody on the line is, when do local jurisdictions need to start making investments towards either some sort of a tie-in or integration with connected or autonomous vehicles? In terms of the options I put out here, the first one is now. The next option is 0 to 5 years, 5 years and beyond is C, and I think I put the last one in a little bit tongue-in-cheek, likely never. Yep, just so you can see the numbers are jumping on. Some of you, actually, the numbers are fluctuating really fast here, but I can see that there's 0 to 5 years seems to be a bit of the majority right now, but there's still quite a few of you online who feel that that this is something that we should be investing in right now. And sort of a thumbnail in terms of the work that's going on for the folks on the line right now, 2015, it does in fact seem as if quite a few agencies are looking at bare minimum setting up pilot type projects with respect to connecting on, we're getting data, I should say, from connected vehicle and the benefits associated with that. There's a couple of other presenters that we have lined up here as well too, but I guess part of the issue is we're having a little bit of technical difficulties getting them online. Bridget Canill from British Columbia, sort of emailing back and forth there. I don't know, have you gotten back in on the line? Is there, can we hear you right now? Yeah, I'm assuming it's a case where she can hear me, but we can't hear her. My apologies, folks, for the technical difficulties there. What I might do is, while we're trying to see if we can get her on board as a panelist to give her discussion there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump ahead to Mike Burnett's slide at the province of Ontario. Give me 1 second here. Switch back over to the main monitor. Mike Burnett is a senior project engineer within the ITS section at the Ministry of Transportation. Likewise, we're sort of going a little bit back and forth with him over the past couple of days. They're, as you can imagine, extremely busy over at the Ministry of Transportation right now, particularly with a lot of activity in the area of Pan Am and Para-Pan Am games. I've been looking on the system here, and it doesn't look as if Mike has actually been able to make it in. I know he was kind of running from back-to-back meetings. Given my former post over at the Ministry of Transportation, I thought I'd just sort of take the liberty on his behalf to just kind of quickly skim through some of the points. I think the key thing here with respect to the province, as with respect to all of our presenters, if you have any questions, by all means, post them here now or email them to me later, and certainly I can pass them on to the respective presenters. So with respect to Mike's presentation here, I know as the first bullet there that the province of Ontario is very, very heavily involved in terms of preparation for Pan Am Games. They recently put out, I believe it was a monster assignment. I'm not sure how that kind of ended up, but looking for a whole bunch of temporary ITS deployments, from using icons to using Bluetooth readers to a whole bunch of other technologies, obviously portable variable message signs that are going to be deployed all over the province, because with the Pan Am Games, it's not just happening in the Toronto area. It goes as far north as, actually I'm not sure the whole geography, I think it's Barrie or North Bay, or it's basically all across the province in terms of southern Ontario with respect to the Pan Am Games. And so there's a lot of portable ITS, temporary ITS that they were looking at deploying. The other big initiative for them this year is they have their new traffic operations center. Those of you familiar with Ontario geography, over at Arrow Road, and it's been a long since running from planning design stage all the way through to actual delivery, and so now they're in the final stages of actually commissioning that new traffic operations center, and very closely tied hand in hand. I mean, the intent is to have the new traffic operations center fully operational in time for Pan Am Games. So as you can imagine, they're very inundated and being called off to meetings on a daily basis to sort of update and keep things going with respect to that initiative as they go through the final strokes of actually turning it on. Within that new traffic operations center, they're also going to be hosting the JTCC, a Joint Traffic Control Room, which would basically be an opportunity, kind of like the initiatives you guys may have heard in other jurisdictions, like in BC, the RTMC, where you've got all the different transportation agencies that are relevant and affected by Pan Am Games, basically working out of one joint traffic control center. It would be a temporary setup specifically for the games, but there, as you can imagine, there's a lot of benefits that are going to come down from that. In terms of the connections and linkages between the various local agencies in pooling all that information, whether it's video or data. The next bullet he has here is integrated corridor management framework development. Discussion with them, I believe there's plans to possibly put out an RFP with respect to that this year to start working on a strategic plan in that regard. The Herb Gray Parkway, I'm very much familiar with that particular project. In my former post over at the Ministry of Transportation, I was the ITS rep for that initiative. It's actually an extension of one of our major freeways in Ontario, the beloved Highway 401. And essentially it's an extension that takes it where it terminates on Ontario Street and brings it all the way up to the Windsor border crossing. And the Windsor border crossing being one of the busiest border crossings, not just in Ontario, but certainly in all of Canada and potentially the world. You know, it's obviously a significant undertaking both for the province and also the federal government as well too in that regard. So actually, hang on 1 second. It sounds like Mike is on, although I don't see you in the list of attendees. Hang on a second, Mike. There we are. Hi, Mike?
Yes, hi.
Oh, great. There you are. Yeah, sorry to be stealing your thunder there.
No worries, that's fine. You pretty much took care of everything, so not to worry. You can if you want to wrap up, or I can kind of wrap up and.
No, you may as well wrap up. I mean, and maybe even if you want to go back on some of those earlier points, I'm talking very high level from my exposure here at the city, but obviously you're there in, day out. So feel free to go back on some of the earlier points, or if you just want to harp on the latter points.
Yeah, no, I mean, just those first three bullets really. Just my main point is we're really doing a lot of those kind of in coordination together. They're really working hand in hand. The work we're doing for the Pan Am Games, the new traffic management center where we're consolidating the center in Burlington, as well as the one here in Downsview, and then the work under integrated corridor management. We're really kind of trying to leverage off the work on each of those, we're really trying to use it as an opportunity to try out some new things, some new technologies that we're testing and evaluating and rolling out for the Pan Am Games. Roger, as you mentioned, we had a large procurement out, and we won't get into that right now. But anyway, there's a lot of work going on there, and we're really hoping that some of the lessons learned that come out of what happens for the Pan Am Games will really feed into our more formal work with some of our municipal partners, transit partners, in terms of our plans to really kind of move forward for the integrated corridor management work. Yeah, I think you've kind of hit on the Herb Gray Parkway. We are just got off a call on that project this morning, and work is trying to wrap up on that. We've been hampered a little bit by the weather this winter, but it's been busy. And then the border advisory systems, we've rolled out a system for the Sarnia-Port Huron crossing, and continue to fine-tune some of the data from that. And we're really hoping to kind of finalize some work in the Niagara region as well on border work. In addition to that, we continue to be involved in the development of the new Detroit River International Crossing, and we're still early days for
for that. But certainly the plans are underway for that, which will of course connect with the Herb Parkway and our partners in the United States. And so yeah, I'll leave it at that. I know we're running a little bit tight on time, and just open it up to any questions. And thanks again for having me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I guess what we'll do right now is let me just switch over. We have one more presenter I want to try and get to before we wrap up. I'm just, again, a little bit of technical difficulties in trying to get Bridget Cannell and the folks over in BC MOTI on the line. Let's just switch over for a second back to the audience poll system that we have here. The last question I have for everybody online, if the ATMS committee were to hold a workshop at the 2015 ACGM, what topic would be of most interest to you? There has been a lot of discussion, both in the committee and the board of directors, talking about within the next ACGM meeting whether or not we should try to allocate some time on the Sunday before the event to have workshops set up. And I guess the question, so it would be sort of like the afternoon of the Sunday, and potentially the idea there would be that it would take place before the board of directors meeting. So if people who are on the board of directors wanted to attend, it would be possible. And certainly it would be wrapping up long before the reception period at the end. So on that note, as you're texting in your responses, whereas normally it's a case where you type A, B, or C, this is the one where you're free to basically type whatever you'd like in the field here. So right off the top, I can see somebody put integrated corridor management as something they'd be interested in seeing. Someone else has got a question mark. Yeah. Standards. Oh, standards, data standards. Yep, that's a good idea. We could certainly have a discussion about data standards. Anything else? NEMA standards. Ooh, that's a good one. Actually, for those of you on the municipal side of the fence, I'm not sure how many of you have looked into this whole new thing with the 48-volt cabinets. I know it's been around now for a little while, but there's a lot of interest from a technical perspective in terms of the power savings and whatnot and the standards there. But I guess the issue is the ITS standard and the ATC standard, I should say, and the debate going on in that regard. Much less obviously the debate in terms of the existing NEMA standard. Yeah, I see connected vehicles. Actually, there is a separate committee within ITS Canada on connected vehicles. So certainly we could talk about that. I see some good things coming up here. Talk about the ITS architecture, a workshop on that. A discussion on automated vehicles, V2I and V2V communications, hard shoulder running. Yep, that's a good one. That's a very good one. Keep in mind, these are all great suggestions I see here. Keep in mind, too, that, as I said before, there are other committees within ITS Canada that take advantage of some of these, or that really delve into some of these other areas. Yes, Batman is real. HOV and hot lanes as an opportunity. Certainly we could talk about that in terms of as a potential workshop. I know there's quite a few folks across the country who are involved in doing investigations there as well. Great stuff. Okay. I'm going to take, as you guys are still chiming in there, I'm going to take a look and see if I can find Bridget on the system here.
Roger, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Bridget. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, great. Oh, fantastic. All right, we found you.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally connected. We had to log out and log back in again.
Okay, great, great. Glad to have you. Okay, on that note, let me just switch the display over to the main screen. Okay, I've got you up. So Bridget, yeah, I mean, to some extent you go without introduction being my co-chair in the committee. But that being said, just for all the folks who are relatively new to ITS Canada, if you want to provide a little bit of introduction about yourself and your background, and then feel free to give a roll-through in terms of the work going on with the province.
Sure. I come from an electrical engineering background, so I'm the manager of electrical engineering. I've also been participating in the build of our Regional Transportation Management Center, which was about a 3-year project and is coming to the end this March 2015. And so what we're doing now is looking forward for the next year and the following years. But before I start talking about these points, I just wanted to tie in with some themes that I noticed throughout the presentation. Backup traffic operations centers, I noticed that some jurisdictions are looking at that. We've actually built one as part of our RTMC rollout project. And UPS deployment is something we do a lot of here in BC. There's some areas of BC that have very poor power and have brownouts. So all our traffic signals do have UPSs, and many of our dynamic message signs do. So anyway, on to our rollout plans for 2015. We're looking at a data warehouse. Here at the RTMC, we're collecting so much data that we're putting together a data warehouse framework so that we can have a user-friendly data warehouse down the road that other jurisdictions can access for information. We've also found some money, I don't know how, but our project manager has found some money for adding 6 more cubes to our video wall, so we're quite happy to expand our video wall from 12 cubes to 18 cubes. Our traffic camera program, we add about 15 to 30 cameras a year, so we're continuing that by adding an additional 30 cameras for the year 2015. And I mentioned that we were looking at what we're going to do next now that our RTMC project will be complete March of 2015. So we've commissioned a concept of operations document that will look at what the next steps are for our RTMC for the next 1 year to the next 5 years. Part of the concept of operations is we're looking at ramp metering, and we're trying to pull in ramp metering control to our ATMS here at the RTMC. And I also wanted to mention, because City of Surrey and City of Vancouver are on the line, is that we do have direct fiber connections with City of Vancouver, City of Surrey, as well as ECOM. City of Richmond, we actually haven't lit our fiber connection, but that's coming soon. And so we exchange video with these with the municipalities. It's a two-way exchange of video, and we display the video we receive from City of Vancouver and City of Surrey within our RTMC and within our ATMS software. So that's just a quick update, but I'm happy to answer any questions or answer questions later if people send them in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bridget. I'm glad to finally get you on board with respect to that. Just out of curiosity, you probably saw from or heard from some of the other presenters as well, too, in terms of your traffic camera program. Just curious if you guys have had to undergo a privacy impact assessment, or is that...
Well, when we launched our RTMC, we did undergo a privacy impact assessment. At the time, our policy was not to record. However, we are reviewing that. And we do have recording capability at our RTMC, so I'm planning to talk to Winston and some of the other people that do have policies in place, because we're certainly looking at that now.
Yeah, and likewise, I'm going to be doing the same thing. The other question I had for you is actually just on your first bullet with respect to data warehouse framework development. It seems like it's the biggest buzz lately, the whole concept of big data and whatnot, and certainly here at the City of Toronto, I could speak to say that our general manager here in terms of transportation services is a very, very strong proponent of the concept of big data. And there's already been a number of cases where we've had situations where the traditional data sets that we had didn't have the answer to what we're looking for. And through consultant assignments or reporting or whatever, we actually cut across multiple data sets to really get the full picture and assess the impacts of improvements on the system, or impacts of a particular construction approach, that kind of thing. What sort of thoughts do you guys have in terms of your uses for the data warehouse in your context?
Oh, multiple uses, from traffic engineering studies to freedom of information requests. We even see, we want to eventually extend it to municipalities and see if they want to participate in data sharing or data warehousing. So I see plenty of uses. Great.
All right, thank you very much. We have one more presenter on the line, potentially Patrick Rishi from City of Montreal. Same thing, I'm not sure, Patrick, if you're on the line right now. Hi, Patrick? No, he did send me a bit of a warning email beforehand that likewise he may have issues in terms of being able to make it. Again, as you can imagine, a lot of activity in Montreal right now. In my last discussion with him, basically just going through and identifying that there is just so much preparatory work right now for ITS World Congress taking place in 2017. Just to quickly go down his list, and likewise, as I said before, any questions, feel free to email them to us, and we'll fire it off to Patrick and get answers that we can post on the ITS Canada website. Hang on a second. I'm just being texted, not sure if that was him, but I'll sort of continue through. So number one, he's talking about camera inventory increase up to 320 CCTV cameras, CGMU official 24/7 operation in the fourth quarter, center-to-center video exchange with the Ministry of Transportation Quebec and some other local traffic manager partners, telecommunications backbone upgrade, 10 gigabits per second. I know they're doing a lot of work with that. It's something Patrick and I have talked about beforehand with respect to their communications upgrade, and we've already started comparing notes to some extent. 32 travel time detectors, so a massive expansion in that regard. Dynamic parking information, and integrated corridor management, which is another, seems to be a bit of a hot topic amongst a number of jurisdictions. The whole idea of getting some sort of a ConOps in place this year with respect to integrated corridor management. So really, really a lot of new and exciting stuff happening in the City of Montreal as well. So as I mentioned before, if you guys have any questions for any of the presenters on the panel discussion today, feel free to email them either to myself or Yannicka. And as I say, we'll go through the process of filtering the questions and combining everything all together and then posting all that information on the ITS Canada website. On that note, that's pretty much our last presenter for today in terms of the basic agenda. Maybe, Rob, did you have any other words you want to throw out to the rest of the audience there?
Sure, Roger, can you hear me? Roger, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, good. I just wanted to
we can hear you.
Thank you and Bridget again for the extraordinary amount of work you put in to organize this webinar. I've been very encouraged by the turnout, and I hope all of you who are listening found this to be very valuable. The next quarterly webinar is March 12th, and I will send you the link to that webinar. And that's really all about the Montreal 2017 World Congress and how you can get involved if you have an interest in doing so. And then lastly, of course, I would like you to remember that we have AGM coming up in May, the 24th to the 27th, excuse me, in the National Capital Region in Gatineau, Quebec. And time is getting short to become a presenter, so we're looking for papers, and the cutoff is the end of this month. And certainly early registration gives you some significant discounts, both from the conference point of view as well as taking advantage of the available hotel block. So look forward to seeing you all of you on our webinar on the 12th of March. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks, everyone, and hope you enjoyed the session. And hopefully to see all of you at the ATGM as well. Thanks. Take care.
So what did you guys think? It was interesting to see.